right, good afternoon. Testing. For those of you who are clearly not already out at dinner, we're here to talk to you from the Metal Roofing Alliance. My name is Mark McDonald. I'm on the board of directors with the Metal Roofing Alliance, and we'd like to talk to you today about quality metal roofs and why they matter. So first off, as you know, oh, that's really loud. How about now? Is that better? How about now? So quality matters. When you look at a homeowner, they're not going to be educated on all the ins and outs of the products that we have to offer. In fact, in a lot of cases, the contractors themselves may not know all of the ins and outs of the products that we have to offer. So it's on us to bring that message out to the homeowners, to bring that message out to the installation community, to make sure that everyone understands what is a good metal roof? What is that definition? Where can they find that out? What are the trade organizations that they can reach out to, that you can reach out to find that information out? There is a huge difference that we're going to talk about from the paint that goes on that metal, the substrate that goes on that metal, and even in some cases, the quality and training of the installers that are putting in that roof. That entire system has to work together to provide the homeowner what they asked for in the first place, which is a quality product. So today, to talk about what quality is and is not, we have three people from this industry that are very qualified to talk through these topics, answer your questions, and get us all a little bit smarter on quality metal roof. So the first one is Brian Smallwood from Steel Dynamics. He's going to be talking to us to kick us off here. We have Ken Giesecke from McElroy Metal, and we have Philip LaPlante from Ideal Roofing. So each one of these folks is involved in the Metal Roofing Alliance, and we make it our business to make sure we have the tools and people that are available to provide you the information you need to bring to the homeowner to expand our market presence. So why does it matter? Why are we talking about this in the first place? So first of all, performance. So getting what you ask for. So we've seen in a few cases where people don't get the quality product, they didn't get the paint that they asked for, and it fades or chalks in 2 years. And that can happen. So someone puts on a brilliant color, and then 2 years later, it looks terrible. Why? Because they didn't have the quality that they needed, that they thought was there, and they probably didn't understand that they didn't to begin with. And in fact, the contractor may or may not have understood what quality product was required for that job. Cost savings, when we look at the type of paint that goes onto that roof, is it solar reflective, which we'll talk about some of that later on. But energy efficiency is a big deal. And if you get a roof that's not what you want, whether it's the color, the pigmentation, or the solar reflectivity of that roof, you're not going to get the energy savings that you wanted. Looking at the value itself. So not just the aesthetics of it, but in terms of replacement. It's certainly not valuable if you put a roof in, and like we had, and recently we had a pretty public example where someone did not have a quality roof and they had to tear off and put a new one in. So that's certainly the opposite of value. So what we want are all these things working together: aesthetics, value, cost savings, and performance. And the only way you can do that is to have the right products that are on that roof. So subpar, when we say something doesn't meet the requirements? Well, the short answer to that question is the the MCA, the Metal Construction Association, has those definitions. What are those requirements? What type of substrate do you need? What is a good paint? What's the definition of that? And we're going to talk through a lot of that. But we see more often than not, when we do have a problem, it comes from an import. And doesn't mean that you can't get an import that's a high quality, but there's not a real good understanding when a coil shows up on the dock. A lot of people really don't understand what's on that coil and what isn't on that coil. And so we've seen in some cases where we've seen very low gauge steel. We've seen not even PVDF, not even SMP, but low grade polyesters put on residential roofs. And that's just not going to work, right? That stuff's going to delaminate, chalk, fade, and just not be good in a very, very short period of time, especially in a southern region that has a lot of sun. Domestic products, we have a lot more visibility and transparency into that process. We know We typically know where that paint comes from. We typically know where the substrate comes from. We know what the quality is. So we have a lot more control and transparency in the U.S., which leads to a higher confidence in that product. Doesn't mean you can't get an import. Not saying that, but we definitely have more transparency here in the U.S. So we've seen a more and more proliferation of some of these products into our market space, which is troubling. And so that's why we as a trade organization think it's important to get the word out, which is why we're having this discussion today. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Brian Smallwood. Oh, thank you.
And how do you switch this? Just the red button?
Just I was just using the arrow.
How nice. Down? You're amazing. Hey, I'm Brian Smallwood. I'm with Steel Dynamics, and I'm a member of the board of the Metal Roofing Association, and I am genuinely passionate about metal roofs. I think we have a good story to tell. I think it's a superior product. I think it adds value to a home. I think it's a safer product. It's more environmentally friendly. I think it's a great investment. I have a metal roof on my house. My neighborhood I live in, Franklin, Tennessee, are all metal roofs. And I'm passionate about it. And we aren't kidding. You know, the challenging thing about painted metal, whether it's aluminum or galvanized or Galvalume or Galfan, is it all looks great when it comes out of on day one. It all looks great, but it doesn't all look great 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30 years from now. And all it takes is one neighborhood that has terrible looking roofs after 5 years for the community to go, we're not doing metal roofs anymore. And it not only is it unfair, it's due to lack of knowledge. So we're going to talk about, we make steel, but as you know, you can use an aluminum roof, all different types of steel. And one thing about buying from a domestic producer or from a high quality import producer, you know, there are people in developing countries that make these products that are not even licensed to make the products. And it's very hard to trace or get a mill cert. A mill cert is every coil of painted steel we ship. We make 7 million tons a year, our company, of flat rolled steel, soon to be 10 million tons a year. Every single coil has a certification to it that will give you full visibility, which is what Mark was talking about. It'll tell you the chemistry, the coating weight, the yield, the strength levels, yield, tensile, elongation, Rockwell. And if there's any problem with any coil, and we do ultraviolet stenciling, we paint our own steel on the inside. So if you had a bad panel, within 2 clicks on a computer, we can find out the day it was produced, what was in it, was there any problems that day? And I don't think that the roofing industry realizes the traceability that you have when you buy from a quality domestic or the few quality import players. The products that are most commonly used from a steel point of view, the substrates are galvanized, which is 100% zinc, 99.5% zinc. And you can buy it in G40, G60, G90, G100. You can actually go lighter than G40. We wouldn't recommend it. And you can go as heavy as G235 for culvert or something that needs a lot of paint. The advantage to galvanized is it's very good in highly corrosive environments like traditional acid rain areas, coastal areas, animal confinement. The one thing about galvanized, though, that you do not get with galvanized that you get with Galvalume is there's no warranties on galvanized. We put all of the people that are licensed to produce Galvalume put a 25-year warranty on the substrate. Now, there's a separate warranty on the paint, but when you buy painted Galvalume, you're actually getting a double warranty. You're getting sometimes a triple because sometimes the manufacturer will put their own. I think most of you understand the galvanized nomenclature. A G90 means there's 9/10 of an ounce total of both sides, like 0.45 and 0.45 on those two sides. And a lot of people use G100, G90, and some will use G60. But you have to realize when you drop down to a G60, that's a 50% drop in the amount of zinc on the product. And it's a straight line. The more zinc you have, the more years of corrosion protection you have. The other product that is the most popular product for roofing and siding in the United States is Galvalume, and you'll see why in a second when I put another chart. 55% aluminum, 45% zinc by weight. We do have a 25-year warranty. And the other thing I didn't mention is galvanized, when you cut the edges of the panels, actually has better corrosion resistant on the edge because of the sacrificial nature of zinc. Galvalume being more aluminum, a little more rigid, gives you longer corrosion resistance, but you wouldn't want to use it if you're cutting a lot of the panels. You'd want to use galvanized. I'm not an aluminum guy, but aluminum is also an excellent product with paint. I'm sure there's a cost difference. Aluminum today costs 78 cents a pound, and steel is more like 35 cents a pound. So I'm sure it's an expensive alternative, but also acceptable. These are just another thing of the different substrates. We have different gauges here, but that really depends. Well, gauge is important. And what you will find is there'll be installers and general contractors in the Nashville area, and I'll ask them what the gauge is on the steel. And they're like, we're not, it's either 29 or 24 or 28, or, I mean, literally. And gauge, of course, is very important for the strength of the roof. In aluminum, they're saying to use a 26 gauge 018. For Galvalume and galvanized, depending on where it's going on the construction, 0142 or thicker. That's 29 gauge. 26 gauge would be the 0185. And then copper, they're saying a 24 gauge. And then lastly, this is Galfan, which is a product that we're the only people in the United States that make currently. It's made in Europe as well. And the one thing about Galfan, it's a great product, and it has roughly double the corrosion resistance of regular galvanized. So a G90 galvanized would equal a GF45. And it's 95% zinc, 5% aluminum with a little bit of mish metal in it. It would be great if homeowners putting a metal roof on, knew where the steel was coming from and knew whether it was G90 or AZ50 or things like this. And that's part of the education challenge we have on the board. You can see the corrosion resistance and why Galvalume is so popular. Well, this is just comparing galvanized. Well, Galvalume that is the top line. So it's 2 to 4 times longer than G90 galvanized. And then you see the straight line reduction, the less zinc on the product, the less corrosion resistance you have. And that's why Galvalume is by far the dominant product. And over here, it's a little funny, but this is showing the average corrosion loss. And so the galvanized has much more corrosion protection loss over time than the Galvalume, which is why we are adding yet our third Galvalume line in Texas in 2001. We'll be the largest Galvalume producer in the United States. And I think that's it. And so Ken, from Vice President of Marketing with McElroy Metals, is going to come up and take us to the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Brian. As he mentioned, I'm Ken Giesecke with McElroy Metal. I've also been on the MRA board for many years. We're going to talk about coatings. Whether you're an association like the Metal Roofing Alliance or an individual company like McElroy Metal, or even the distributors and contractors that are dealing every day directly with the homeowners, all of us are promoting metal roofing as a long-term roofing solution. So you see all of us use messages like this. A metal roof can last 30 to 50 years. This is actually from the Metal Roofing Alliance website. Many of us say that roofing provides a decades-long service life. The last roof you'll ever need. We see that a lot in companies' marketing materials. A metal roof can last 40 to 70 years. Actually, I found that from State Farm Insurance, some of their marketing materials. And lastly, as one of our roofing contractors in Illinois likes to state in his marketing and advertising, is metal roofing is a one-and-done solution. So all of these messages that we're giving put longevity into a homeowner's mind, right? When we sell a metal roof to them, they're thinking they're going to have something that's going to last a long period of time. And based on these messages, that's what, at least 30 years, right? So that's why quality materials are so important. We want to make sure that materials will last enough to meet that homeowner's expectations by what he or she has bought. When it comes to the coating side, Brian talked about the importance of the substrate. I'm going to talk about the importance of the paint system. That's just as important as a substrate to make sure we have a long-performing coating to go with that substrate. Primarily, there's 3 coatings we use in this industry: a polyester, a silicone modified polyester, and a polyvinylidene fluoride, also known as PVDF, the acronym, and the trade names Kynar 500 and Hylar 5000. A good, better, best would be shown on this pretty chart here. Polyester systems, I think Mark mentioned these before, these should not be used for exterior applications like a residential roof. These should be used for shade and shelter, maybe a carport or a doghouse or even a fence. I'm not going to say they never end up on a house, but they shouldn't, because that homeowner is not going to get a roof that's going to last the expectation of what they're looking for. The middle category, or the better, is silicone modified polyester. These are good quality coatings. They're made for being a good color and a good gloss retention. They also have excellent hardness, so these are more scratch resistant. And our price point is a lower price point compared to the PVDF, but a higher price point compared to the polyester systems out there. Hylar 5000, Kynar 500, or PVF systems are known as the industry's best. They offer superior color and gloss retention. They have excellent durability, meaning that coating is going to last. It's going to last as far as chalking goes and film integrity goes and fade goes. Very durable coating. Excellent as far as attraction to dust and atmospheric materials in it. Actually, the chemical makeup of PVDF is similar to Teflon, so that means that dirt is less apt to stick to it. A couple of the knocks on PVDF systems are they are a little bit softer, so contractors need to be careful because they do scratch a little bit more, and they're also a little bit slipperier. So again, contractors just need to know that when they install the roof to be a little more careful on the installation side. It does have a higher price, but one thing that we really talk about in residential metal roofing is value rather than price. A homeowner is going to spend more typically for their metal roof on their house. We talk about value. So while Kynar or the PVDF system is a little bit higher cost, you look at the overall value of that roof when you throw in the labor and all the fasteners, all the other component parts, it's really a nominal upcharge for a coating system that's going to last a lot longer, look a lot nicer for the long haul. And this is why it's important. This is a job in Louisiana that 2 different types of panels were shipped on the job. A PVDF, Kynar 500, and SMP. And 8 years later, look at the difference. And also look at the trim. You can see the hip trim there, the valley and the ridge. That is also on the PVDF side. So one thing that's important, we talk about residential metal roofing, we talk a lot about the longevity, but also we're selling aesthetics, right? A metal roof looks nice. A metal roof looks nicer than conventional shingles. That's one of our messages, and most homeowners would agree with that. So while this SMP roof, imagine that was shipped all SMP, it wasn't 2 different coatings shipped to it. That roof would still be providing value, right? It's protecting the interior of the house, but from the standpoint of curb appeal, what's going to be better? And again, a metal roof is something that's going to last 25, 30, 35 years. And as Brian mentioned, when somebody goes by a house, we want them to go by a house with a metal roof and say, you know what, I want that on my house. So what's going to look better in 30 years? A house with an SMP roof that has that dull look, or the curb appeal of a Kynar 500 house, or a PVDF coating. That's the value of PVDF coatings. This is a commercial project, but this is really a contrast. This is a job in Indiana that the original building on the left-hand side was built 9 years after the addition had. And that this building had all PVDF coatings. So had this building been with SMP and 9 years later they put that addition on, you would have had a notable difference. I can't tell you it'd been as noticeable as a previous shot, but it would definitely be a noticeable difference. So that owner would have a choice, have a 2-tone building, go out and repaint it, which is not a good option, or re-roof, which is a lot more expensive. So again, it goes back to the value. Fortunately, when this building was built, the contractor believed in PVDF coatings and believed in the value of PVDF coatings, and he sold that to the building owner, and the building owner obviously believed in value too. And 9 years later, I can assure you that he's happy. This is just a quick chart to show the recap of this. Again, on the PVDF side, you're looking at superior gloss retention, superior color retention, superior resistance to atmospheric staining and dirt retention. And the only drawback is a little bit more on the scratching side. And the durability and the scratching is the advantage to the SMP systems. Again, that price, it shows more dollar signs, but it's not about price. It's about the value that you're providing to the homeowner. I want to talk about stone-coated a minute here. It's not a painted system, but stone-coated products are very popular right now too, and these are great for homeowners that want to have more of a conventional look, but they want all the advantages of metal. And what we are seeing in the industry is some going in from Asia primarily, is low-quality products coming on shore. And these low-quality products are AZ-15. Brian mentioned AZ-50 and AZ-55 is the industry standard. These are AZ-15. I mentioned before, a polyester painted system should never be used on a residential house. Same thing with an AZ-15. The concern on this is when these go onto a home and they fail prematurely, what's going to happen to all of us that are involved in this industry, whether you're a contractor, a supplier, or a manufacturer. So these things we want you contractors to do when it comes to coatings and substrates is number one, use a high quality substrate and coating. Work with your manufacturers to look at what the coating and the substrate is to make sure that it will match the homeowner's expectations on longevity. And know and promote the substrate and coating. When you go into a homeowner, take the information with you. Take pictures like I showed you here to show the value of a PVDF system, show the value of a high galvanized or a high Galvalume substrate. And tell your prospects to ask your competitors. You know, a lot of times homeowners will get 2 or 3 or 4 quotes. If you're going in there and educating that homeowner, tell them to ask your competitors what the substrate and what the coating is, because a lot of guys, they don't know, and that can be a red flag. There may be people putting on that AZ-15 stone coat that maybe don't know better, they haven't been educated on it. So it's important to educate that homeowner so they ask the right questions. And again, focus on value and not the cost of a metal roof. This is a recap of what I talked about. I want to mention this because we do have a buyer's guide available on the MRA website. And this is designed to help homeowners make a decision on metal roofing. And the specifications I just talked about here and Brian talked about are all in this buyer's guide at metalroofing.com. And now Philip LaPlante is going to talk about why contractors should care. Yes, sure. No, you do not. The question was, does the paint system act differently on Galvanized and Galvalume? The answer is no. So we see PVDF coatings on a G100, a G90, as well as you'll see it on a Galvalume substrate. What you probably won't see is a PVDF coating on a galvanized substrate like a G60, because a G60 is also a product that shouldn't be used on a residence. It's more of a shade and shelter product also. So you're going to see the higher end coatings on the higher end substrates, which is what we want as an industry.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Philip LaPlante, Sales Director for Ideal Roofing for our residential steel shingles. Here I'll be talking to you about why contractors should care. Well, the main reasons, as we all know, the industry is growing every year. So I'm proud to say, being so passionate about steel roofing, that it's growing. The industry is growing year after year. Steel roofing is taking a bigger presence of the residential market. So year over year, steel roofing is growing. One of the big problems that we talked about earlier was the subpar products that are flooding the market right now. It is a growing industry. A lot of people are trying to jump into it. That's why we tell everyone that make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. You're comparing the same products. Make sure that the products are from a manufacturer that is following the norms or the quality standards of the industry. So as a proud member of the MRA and many other manufacturers we are all obeying the quality standards, the norms or the quality standards in the industry. So that's a big factor to always take and ask your manufacturer if they are part of the MRA or if they are following suits with all the quality standards. But as we had mentioned, big risk of subpar products in the industry is that they're not only going to damage basically your name, your reputation, but they're going to damage the whole industry. You're going with the metal roof for the longer lasting, for the protection of your house, to resist all the weather, the extreme weather we're getting, either the cold, the frost, the ice, the tornadoes, wind uplift. You're going with the a subpar product that's not going to withhold this, that is going to either rust, it'll blow off, or they'll peel, and then you'll damage the whole industry and you'll damage your own name. So here's basically an example of the impact. Personally, if I'm looking and I'm in the market for a new roof and I see these across the street, it's definitely going to affect how I'm thinking of my purchase, and especially that I got to pay an increase for steel rather than your traditional asphalt shingles. And then you see this that are sort of damaged, that are going to damage the industry. But mainly, sum it up into 3 main points why you guys should care as a contractor is number one is your reputation. Your reputation's on the line, and as you all know, the best marketing form is word of mouth. How many times do you do a new steel roof in a new district and you go back in that same district, in that same area 5 years later, and now there's 6 or 7 of those houses? Word of mouth, they loved it, they liked it, the installer did a good job. Oh, okay, well the neighbor says that, so I'll do it on my house too, and I'll use that exact same roofer. So word of mouth and your reputation, it's your livelihood, this product that you're gonna put. So why jeopardize it with a product coming from offshore or with no warranty just to save a few cents? Warranties. Well, I think everyone in this room here hates warranties, unless you're, I guess, an asphalt manufacturer where you're used to dealing with warranties. But warranties, basically, you're losing your margins. It's basically a loss right away. You're going back on site either for a leak or for a problem. How many more visits outside? Sometimes these are 2 or 3 hours of traveling involved to go back on that job site to repair something that failed, that should have originally been complete and without going back. And then the last point is the overall market growth. So as I mentioned earlier, overall market growth is growing very quickly. And these subpar products, these failing products that are out there are damaging the whole industry, not just your own name. You're going to damage your name, your contract, but you're going to damage the whole industry. What can contractors do? Well, number one, purchase from a reliable source. So there's a lot of different organizations, the MRA being one of them, the MCA being another one, that have manufacturer members that are in there. They're basically going and conforming to the quality standards. Take quality products, and also the main one is installation. You got to make sure you got a good quality product, but the installation is to the standards of the manufacturer. Work with the building codes. Every building code in different states, different city has different norms that you got to follow suit. And then partner with basically a well-recognized manufacturer. And then one point here I'd like to point out is why should you join the MRA? Many good reasons why you should join the MRA. One of them being the marketing support, either from promotional tools, from educational tools, presentation, trade show information, industry updates. So that's a very good one. It tells you all the new updates, all the new products, all the new areas that you might want to focus on, or opportunities that your company can grow in. Online presence. So as of today, basically they get over 1 million visits. So you want to get out there and you want to get your contracting company out there. Online presence is huge on the MRA. Consumer leads is another good reason as well. All the amount of consumer leads that come in and they get filtered out through the MRA and then sent to these contractors that are part of the MRA. And that's wraps it up. So if there's any questions, thank you very much.